Hello and welcome to Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts. I'm doing a bit of a different intro today because I looked at myself in the mirror this morning and I just thought, what is going on with my hair? And I wanted to share it. I'm going to be testing whether you have to seal artificial flowers. Everything I use today, the links will be in the description, so please click on the links if you're looking to buy anything. I'll be using silicone reusable cups, which are really easy to get the dried resin out of, and a silicone mixing stick and yellow gold, I suppose it is, mica powder. So without too much further ado, let's get on with the project. With the ones that I'm going to spray, I'm going to be using the Crystal Clear Seal Protects Enhancers because I can't get the Kmart seal in the UK, but I will put the link for both the UK and the USA of the products to use for this. So all I literally will do is give it a shake and then I'll just give it a few quick sprays over the top like that. Let that dry, turn it over and do the back. Now I'm only going to give it one spray because that has coated it and it should soak in. So we'll see how that goes once we do the experiment. With the Mod Podge one, literally what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be pulling these petals apart, making sure I get every petal where I can. Putting a coat over. Now Mod Podge does dry clear, which is great. And I've done it on this darker one to show you what I'm doing so that you can see that it's covering and how much it's covering. I have written underneath each one of the coasters what it will be. So that one's got nothing. These have all been coated now, so I've got the coaster with nothing, the Mod Podge, the spray sealer. They've had about an hour to dry and they are all very dry. So what we'll see is if it's a change of the colour, if it affects bubble production, a variety of things. So without too much further ado, let's mix up the resin and let's get on with it. Well, my resin's all mixed up now and I've tried to mix it up with as few bubbles as possible. And if you want to know how I do that, then check out the video above here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour resin into each one of these molds and get rid of any bubbles that are around the edges. Now remember, if you're mixing up a large batch of resin, it's always better to decant that into some smaller pots if you want to use it over the period of time, perhaps 30 minutes, because a large batch of resin will heat up. The exothermic reaction will be a lot harder and it will go really hot and cure a lot quicker. But if you decant it into some small little pots, then that is going to avoid that. It won't happen as freely. Around the edges now with a toothpick, and I'm confident now that there's as fewer bubbles in there as I could possibly get. So what I'm going to be doing is the first flower I'm going to be putting in is the one without anything on it. So I'm not really worried about the order I put them in. I just want to see how the resin reacts with it. And once this starts to cure up, I will push these down a little bit more as well, because then once it becomes tacky, it is likely not to float to the top. And what I always try and do is, whenever I put anything into resin, I always try and get it completely saturated to start with, like so, and then wiggle it around in case there is any bubbles that have got caught underneath this item that I'm putting in. And I do that with pictures, I do it with anything that I'm putting in resin, because it can trap bubbles, and what that does is it looks unsightly, but also it causes anything that you're putting in your resin really to float to the top. Now these two molds that are the same are very shallow molds, where the third one is quite a bit thicker and deeper. So I'm sure that probably the bits are going to pop up again out of this when it is cured, but ultimately it is a test on what the resin does to the silk flowers as opposed to, or artificial flowers, as opposed to making 3 perfect coasters. So that's the one with nothing. So I'm now going to do the same with the one with Mod Podge. I'll pop those in, and then I'm going to pop the ones in that have been done with a spray sealer. So let's again pop those down, make sure they're very well covered, dislodge any bubbles that are underneath it if we can. So you can see lots of little bubbles coming up. Well, I think the camera's probably picking that up. And you can guarantee if something starts to float to the top, then it's got a bubble underneath it somewhere. I'm going to let that settle for a few more minutes, and then I will get rid of those bubbles on the top using my heat gun, not a torch, because I don't want to melt the mould. And then I will come back to this once it's cured. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Please leave a hashtag new in the comments of this video, and that means that I can then welcome you to my channel and give you any other information and support that you need. These have cured now, so I'm ready to put the base layer on in the gold. And don't forget, that is why we work kind of backwards with these flowers, is because whatever we see here, that's going to be the bottom of the coaster, because we're working backwards here, and that's why I put these flowers in the way that I put them in. This is ready now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour into them and let that spread out. And that will find its own level to those coaster bits. We can babysit it for a little while just to see if any bubbles pop up. And they probably will. Go over it with our heat gun. And then we'll see what they look like tomorrow when they're cured. These have cured now, which is great. So we'll turn them out and we'll have a look and see which is the best. So that's the spray sealer. That's the Mod Podge. Oh, look, there was a big bubble there. I obviously didn't get out. Actually, I quite like it. And there's nothing. I would say, actually, there isn't a great deal of difference in any of them. Perhaps the one with nothing does look a little bit more washed out than the one with the spray sealer. But I wouldn't say there's a great deal of difference between the spray sealer and the Mod Podge. I would say definitely the spray sealer has been the most successful. But nothing major. And I think they do actually look quite good in there, the artificial flowers. I don't know what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments below. But what I would say is, before using any artificial flower, because all of them are going to be made slightly different, I would do a little test on them. You know, chuck one in some resin, just a little bit of resin, see what happens. If it doesn't bleach out or doesn't affect the colour, then you're probably good to go. If it does, then maybe look at a sealer. But Mod Podge and spray sealers are generally the ones that I use to seal anything. So it's a little bit inconclusive, I suppose, this test. But what it does show is that spray sealer is definitely had a protective element to it. I do think the Mod Podge, maybe I didn't coat this one enough, has taken the colour out of that one. I did try and choose the same colours, and I would say the nothing has also taken some out of that colour, but certainly not out of that one. I hope you liked this video. Please hit the like and subscribe and that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Leave me a question or any comments, and hashtag new if you're a new subscriber in the comments section, and then I'll get back to you. I will get back to everybody, and I like to welcome everybody to my channel. If you want to learn more about how to use resin and other people's projects and different things and see other people's ideas, then please sign up to my Facebook group. It's completely free, doesn't cost you anything. And what we do is we post stuff on there, we post tips on there, we discuss different things, different ways of working and methods and solving problems. It's a great little community. It's growing really, really well. And if you want to, you can post your videos on there too.